Thank you.
Go ahead and press start.
Awesome.
And we are live.
Okay, this is Trustee Smiley.
Very good timing, Trustee Smiley. Welcome to the special session of the West Idaho School Board. I do want to say that we called this session last week to get a short update on the connectivity problems that the district faced last week. This is really just a short informational meeting, but and you may also notice that there's an action item that concerns the fall reopening plan, and that's also just intended as a placeholder, just in case the district needs action. So just want to let everyone know what this meeting is about. I also wanted to take a moment before the meeting starts and thank Devin DeLashmet and the district's IT team for working tirelessly over the last several weeks to support this district. We truly appreciate their dedication to our kids and all the work they put in. Thank you. And the board would also like to thank our teachers for all the work they're doing right now to open our schools and support our students. This district and the board owes all of you a great debt of gratitude. At this time, I would like to ask that you join us as we silence our speakers and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Thank you very much. So to start the meeting, the first item on the agenda is one for discussion, is basically our discussion on connectivity issues for students. And the person to lead would be Dr. Reynolds. And Dr. Reynolds, please feel free, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman Klopfenstein, trustees. It has been a very amazing and difficult journey. I appreciate your kind words for Devin and our IT department. Devin has some good news for us, and he has a couple of challenges that I think we need to be aware of. So with that, Mr. DeLashmet, would you give us an update, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, trustees, Superintendent Reynolds. I have updates. I'm going to divide today's conversation into 4 categories: a discussion on laptop connectivity, iPad connectivity, support, what we're doing in that area, what we're seeing from supporting families through this transition, and the next steps that we have been working on and where we're headed from here. With that, I'll start with iPads. As of this morning, we did some detailed work, and we know that of our slightly over 33,000 laptops, 26,500 of those devices have the new filtering agent as of this morning. As you know from my updates, the automated processes that we've put in place will continue to update the filtering agent on devices as students continue to use those in the coming days. And as students come on site and get updates or receive those updates, our teachers are working with students to restart machines and verify that those updates are in place. Just to remind you or remind everyone that this change on the laptops really did 2 big things. It allowed and ensured that those 26,500 devices really connected to the filter in the new filtering methodology and did not use the VPN technology, which was bogging down the system previously. And that freed up a lot of capacity. So we believe those 26,500 devices are now connecting more securely, and not securely, but I should say are not having the access issues that we had in the VPN solution. And so that, since they're connecting in the new method, that freed up a lot of capacity for our iPads and our other devices that don't have the updated filtering methodology installed on them to connect to the VPN and to also work more successfully. So we feel like we made a huge impact on performance. And I would think from a support perspective, when I get to that update, I think we saw that in the support calls and the requests that we answered in the last few days. With iPads, we have 8,500 iPads, and our filtering change is now rolling out to iPads. And we do feel like that is going well, but we have hit a few hiccups, and we're preparing right now to communicate to our teachers and our families starting tomorrow morning on how they can more successfully connect with their iPads and make sure that it's very clear on what they need to do. We've sent multiple instructions to families, and I think now it's a little confusing as to what they need to do. And so I think as families troubleshoot and feel like they have connectivity issues, I think it's a little unclear about what they need to do. The way we've left things in place, hopefully if they haven't received any updates, everything should still be working. But if they have received updates and converted over to the new filtering methodology, what they need to know is how to log into the filter and how to access the filter appropriately. And to that end, there are a couple of things that we're going to need to tune in our filter to make sure that we reduce this login burden for some of our youngest students who struggle with, usernames and passwords, and they're just barely learning how to type, and it takes a long time for them to access and log into a device. Because of the way iPads work, there is no filtering agent where a student can log in, let's say, to the iPad as a username, and then that information gets transitioned and applied and can log into multiple services. So that technology just doesn't exist. So consequently, people have to log in to those services, and that does represent, I think, a significant challenge for those younger students. So when iPads are on our network, there's a number of policies that we can implement that ease this burden, and we now need to implement those so that they work as well as they possibly can when they're not connected to our network. There are some of those policy things that we can't do, but there are a number of things that we can do. And some of the changes that we'll be making, including making sure that once a device is logged into the filter, that device only has to be re-authenticated, that username and password only has to be entered once every month so that people don't have to re-authenticate. And then we're also going through and we're whitelisting apps in a certain way so that even if somebody forgets or isn't able to successfully authenticate to the filter, our filter will allow them to connect to the educational apps and services that we know we are offering, and that should also reduce that login burden. So that's the update I have on both laptops and iPads. Moving on to support, I can tell you that we did have, we did answer over 350 calls from parents and teachers inside the district yesterday. We were able to ramp up our capacity on the service desk, and that will continue. Yesterday, I will tell you, felt very successful. I felt like people answering phone calls were able to help troubleshoot problems, answer questions, and it wasn't just about the filter. It was, what's my username and password? How do I access this? Is this correct? And I think our team felt very, very successful. Today, as of now, we've answered about 180 calls. And I think we're doing reasonably well, but I would say that our feelings of success don't feel quite the same today, because now we're starting to get into those individual issues. And sometimes we're troubleshooting something that might be wrong with a device that's outside of these big picture items that we've been working on with the filter. And I think our challenge is that the support calls are going a little bit longer, and our support queues have been a little bit longer today. I know that yesterday we did see some wait times of up to 20 minutes, but by and large, as I spot checked throughout the day, we had wait times of 5 minutes, sometimes even less. Our challenges, as I said today, with more complicated, more complex calls, I think that our wait times also approached 20 minutes, but I would say that our wait times were a little bit longer today. I think we're answering a lot of calls and we're helping a lot of people, but I think we still need to work on our capacity on the service desk, and we're working on that today, including setting a rotation schedule so that our people can be available on the phones to make sure that those calls are answered in a timely manner. I did review some login information from our environment, and I don't know how to categorize it. I feel like people are finding a way to access our systems. I don't have statistics as of this week because the login statistics for our Azure login environment from Microsoft is delayed by 48 hours. So those statistics will start coming in tomorrow. But over the course of last week, when we were in session, we had between 38 and 39,000 individual logins to Microsoft Teams and to our Microsoft services. I don't want to say that, and I don't know that I can tell you that all of those logins were successful. What I can tell you is that people attempted to log in. I don't know what level of success that meant. It could mean that somebody was involved in a Teams meeting and they were just fine. I received a number of emails from parents who said all my devices worked last week and I had a great time. And we know that we did have significant technology issues and a lot of people could not connect. And what I don't know is if people were able to log in during off hours, they were using personal devices. All I can tell you is that the statistics show that we had a lot of people accessing our services somehow and at varying degrees of success. And I don't have a metric or a way to analyze those. I have some pretty telling information around what's happening inside of Teams. We have, thousands and thousands of hours of video that's being done. And so we are producing content, reaching out and connecting to people and recording that content and making it available in a number of ways. So that's my recap on support. And finally, with next steps. As I mentioned, I'll retouch on some of the changes that we're making, the fine tuning that we're doing with our filter concerning iPads. Again, that is to make sure that once a student in the grades K through 2 logs into the filter, they don't have to log in again for at least 1 month. So that will reduce the login burden. And I could see us working with teachers to make sure that we set up some reminders and protocols so that does happen at least on a monthly basis to refresh those logins. And we are whitelisting applications to make sure that people who, if something goes wrong in that filtering mechanism, that login does not happen properly, or somebody forgets, or it does expire for a period of time, that a majority of our apps and services will still be able to be connected. We are then also going to be sending out documentation and clarification to our families so that they can help assist with this, and then also to our teachers, because by and large, they will be able to help talk students through this because most of our students are now connecting to Teams and able to communicate to their teachers. With the filter, we have been continuing to monitor performance, and I think that it's going well. But my goal is to make sure that we have the capacity so that students can connect from anywhere at any time. And even if we have to go back, if we move a little bit backwards and we go back into some category red and everybody's connecting remotely, we want to make sure that we have the capacity to do that. And so we've been working with our vendor to look at the capacity, monitor what's happening in our system, and we have some recommendations for some changes that we're going to be making to our filter in the coming weeks. Some of those involve adding additional RAM to some of our filtering servers so that they can handle additional capacity, and we can actually filter more traffic in the new methodology that we have. We will be taking and changing the way some of our servers that were supporting the VPN method as we ramp down capacity and need there. We will be transitioning those over into the new proxying method, and to make sure that we have capacity both internal and external. And then finally, we will be making a couple of network changes, and these aren't related to capacity, but we'll be making network changes so that if we have to do service on the filter in the future, we have the ability to do that in a way that we can keep the filter running, and we don't have to take it down to make some of these changes. So if you can imagine, we're starting to think about all the network maintenance and those kinds of activities that we do on a monthly basis. And typically we've only had to communicate with and coordinate with 4,000 staff members. And now we have to communicate and coordinate with, 80 to 90,000 parents and our 40,000 students. So when do you do that? When do you take the filter system down to do maintenance on it and to proactively maintain the system to ensure that you don't have outages due to something going wrong with the filter? And that's going to be very tricky for us to answer. Do you do it on a Tuesday night? And do you do it at 5 o'clock when you think people aren't using the system? Or do you do it at midnight when you think people aren't using the system? Do you do it on the weekend, but then you can't evaluate and ensure the performance on Monday? You have to wait for everybody to come back. So these are some very challenging things that we're working on. And we always design our systems with a high level of redundancy and fault tolerance. But as we look to having devices off our network and having to provide services to all of our students really from anywhere at any time, we're rethinking and having to restructure that just a little bit to make sure that we can take a portion of the system down, maintain a portion of it while we maintain some level of service, and then, you know, take that system, that part we just maintained, let it come back up, and then convert, you know, the other half of the system. So these are things that we are continuing to work on, and those are the things that we'll be implementing in the foreseeable future, the next few weeks. So with that, I'll pause and stop for questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lashman. I truly appreciate the update. So basically what I understood was that we have, basically it was a very positive update. We do have some issues for logins for the youngest children we're working through. We have some support issues with the onesies, I guess is what you're saying. Documentation is coming out for parents, they can expect that. And you're working on more longer term maintenance performance issues with hardware, network, and other technology changes. So thank you very much. Trustees, do you have any questions about those about this discussion?
Mr. Chairman, are you going to go around to each one of us, or are you just going to ask? You're just going to leave it open?
Trustee Johnson, would you like to start?
Sure.
Sorry, I guess we'll just go start.
Okay. I have a couple of quick questions. Just a quick math. It sounds like we have about 78% of our laptops that are updated right now. Do you have a percentage on the iPads? Because I heard 8,500 iPads, but I didn't know how many had gotten the update thus far.
Trustee Johnson, Chairman Kloppenstein, Trustee Johnson, that's a great question, and it's a little bit more difficult for me to answer because of the Mosel MDM that we use. So I don't have the statistics, and it's not as easy for me to tell on those devices. I should also mention that, you know, these kinds of issues that we're dealing with are going on all over the place. And as with true technology fashion, our MDM vendor has had an outage in the middle of all of these things. So those changes that we were pushing down to iPads has been halted, started, and restarted. So that's causing us some complications. And so I don't have an exact number on the iPad, but what I can tell you is all those issues have been worked through, and those profile changes that are now starting to happen. And I can come back with further details. It will just take us a little bit more time to be able to assess and make sure that I report accurate information, just due to the nature of that management system. But I do feel like as we are starting to see those changes happening, we do know that we have this login issue that we need to clarify for families. So that's something that we need to work on immediately. But I can't tell you exactly how many devices have received that update.
Okay. Okay.
I should also tell you that we're working actively with some of the teachers at the virtual schoolhouse to troubleshoot and work through those to make sure that they're validating, you know, the information that we're sending out. And so it's always that troubleshooting and making sure that we're accurate when we send something out. So we are taking time to make sure that we're doing that with confidence and accuracy. And wanted to say thank you to the teachers at Virtual Schoolhouse and some of the parents who are helping us with that to make sure that things are working like we expect.
Thank you. The other question I had was the data you got from last week, around 38 to 39,000 logins. Are those unique logins, or is that total?
Those are unique logins. Those aren't like a count of the number of people logins. Those are individual users that logged in. I cannot disaggregate at this point. I don't have a way to disaggregate the number of staff logins and student logins. But I can tell you that's how many people logged in an individual day. Again, I'm not saying that we have 38,000 people who logged in and they were successful and they got everything they needed. I don't have a way to assess that. I just know we had that many logins. That's just the data I have. So I think that's, you know, a compliment to a number of things. I think the work that the technology team is working to do, what our teachers are communicating, and frankly, to what our patrons are capable of doing. I think we have a lot of people out there who are finding a way, helping their students find a way, and that is they're doing multiple things. They're using personal devices. Students are finding a way to use their phones. I have a lot of parents who are saying, yeah, we'll access the recording and the resources online, and we were able to do that. It just took a little bit of time, but this was an exercise in an understanding that sometimes there's issues and we have to be patient, and we have to work through them, and we have to find a way to be resilient. And it looks like we have a lot of people doing that. But I do not want anyone to think that I'm suggesting that we had 38,000 people log in and they were successfully receiving services. All I can report is that I do know that we had that many people logging into our Microsoft services.
And then my last question is probably not for you, it's probably for Mr. Heller. But my question is, what are we doing to supplement the education for those folks that can't get in on their connectivity when they're either on their remote day for yellow, I guess is what I'm talking about for right now.
Well, I guess I would start by saying those individual questions from parents who have that question, it needs to be directed back to their individual teacher or their individual building. But I can speak to what I've seen from a handful of teachers who are finding every single way to reach out to their families, sending them the content that they were not able to connect with. Try to answer that question in a general way for every single teacher, K-12. I wouldn't want to step too far out on that limb. I know that teachers, like they always do, are finding ways to get that done. My own 2 children, I had one who was able to connect every day last week and one who was not able to connect at all last week. And both teachers went above and beyond to find ways to make sure that our students knew what was being covered and give them every opportunity to make sure we got that information. And both of my children were able to do that. And so I think teachers are doing what they always do, which is finding every way. But it's certainly stressful for everyone, and it's certainly an added layer for teachers as connectivity issues continued. But I will say that the teachers I've spoken to the last day or so have said it's gotten significantly better. And they are feeling like the majority of their students, if not all of their students, are connecting at every opportunity, and then those who can't are getting on at a later date or later time in the day and doing that. So I do think it's greatly improving. The IT team has done a fantastic job, but there's still, based on what Devin's reporting, still some work to do.
Thanks, Brett. I think that question I've been getting from parents is a lot of folks are, I guess the question is, what's the general expectation? And is it that they'll be able to access recordings later, or is it like some schools are getting paper? And so I just wanted to know what kind of guidance we're giving to the teachers in order to supporting those kids and our families that can't get into their systems. So it's looking more for what the district guidance is.
The guidance we've given teachers all along has been, if students can't get on, whether it's connectivity issues, whether it's the student sitting at a child care center where that's just not an option for them, whatever it might be, that we're going to provide anything that was live needs to be provided also in a recording for students to gather at a later date. But I know that, as you said, there are schools who've said your connectivity issues have been big enough that we're going to give you some asynchronous paper materials for you to work on. I mean, it's been very different teacher to teacher, school to school, but our guidance has been give the folks as much grace and patience as you can to give them the opportunities to keep their students learning. I think our teachers do that well, but I think it's definitely it's a challenge, and I think our teachers are being very creative. And I find that once we get moving, our teachers have done a great job of being very creative. But as we talked about last week, all of that creativity, that reaching out to every single parent, all that work that they're doing is time, and it takes each individual teacher time to get that done. And our teachers are working very, very hard, as they always do, but this is just a whole different ballgame for them. And certainly, as the connectivity issues get better, it will help. But it's going to be a challenge. It's not going to be perfect, and our teachers are taking a large role in trying to keep this ship moving for every individual kid, especially when there's connectivity issues or whatever might be causing a student not to be able to get on. But we have given guidance to provide recordings provide opportunities for students to engage with whatever the learning task was at a later time in the day if they can't do that during the live session for whatever reason, and give every opportunity for students to do that, and be as forgiving and provide as much grace as we can to folks in the situations that they're dealing with.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Chairman, that's the last of my questions. I have one kind of comment, and that is just as a parent, I don't know personally when my kids are at the level that they're getting the right education. So it'd be helpful from a parent perspective at some point to let folks in communications in the future let us know how we need to be supporting that, because my kids in particular are on some of those days off. I don't know when we're caught up, I guess. So I don't know if the systems are down and we're doing everything we can, and I understand the grace and the patience, but at some point I kind of am looking for, how do I know when we're up and running, and then how do I support them getting caught up? That's just a comment. Excellent. For future parent communication.
Thank you very much. Truly appreciate that. Trustee Ozuna, would you like to go next?
I don't have any additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Trustee Newhoff, did you have any questions?
Not this time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Trustee Smiley?
Can you hear me?
Trustee Smiley, yeah, we hear you.
Okay. Quick question for Devin, and that is, I know that our filtering system is, designed to prevent malware, hacking, things like that. Just want, what we're doing to prevent those horribly unfortunate attempts by people with less than ideal motives.
Chairman Klopfenstein, Trustee Smiley, a couple things. When I listened to the comments from trustees, I think I should add one last comment. We have talked exhaustively about this issue, and I do believe that our issues are being resolved, and I think we have solved this issue for many, many, many of our students. I think the challenge that you see before you is that as we start working now to ensure that every student and every device connects, this is where it's just going to take time to work through communication, sending information to parents, and then making sure that we reach out through our teachers and through the district and make sure that every device works and that every device is connected. And it's that last mile, that last effort, that last getting that last 20%, that last 10% done, takes all the time and effort that it took to get to the 80% mark. And it's going to take us that time and effort, but the technology team, we're prepared to get there and to get that done, student by student, device by device, if that's what it takes. And so I just wanted to let you know that we're working very hard to ensure that every student it gets connectivity. But the issues that we see at this point will not just be, the filter. There are going to be all sorts of things that we are going to be learning and figuring out because this is something that we've never done before. And so ensuring that every device works at every time and all the time is going to be challenging. And we are going to have to continue to work to revamp our systems, to work in new ways, and to make sure that this is the best year we can make it for our students. That's what they deserve. So on to your question, Trustee Smiley, please keep in mind that the filter does a very specific task. Its job is to make sure that we meet our statutory obligation for the Child Internet Protection Act, which is to filter internet content for our students. So although it does play a small role in security itself, its main job is to keep track of where students go on the internet, what they type into a browser, what they search for, and then it stops them from accessing sites that are inappropriate, such as something like gambling or weapons or pornography. The filter, as you know, is not an exact technology. The internet is ever evolving, and it's a catch-up game. We are constantly getting updates to what is categorized on the internet, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, and this is just something that we do on a regular basis. And we do that, as part of our obligation and what we think is an obligation to our families to be able to provide and log that information as well. So from a security perspective, that's a different conversation. We have multiple things in place that deal with the security aspects, and that has to do with what our next-gen firewall does, our policies that we have inside of the next-gen firewall, and that controls what kind of traffic that we can access and what kind of traffic comes into the district, what servers, what workstations that traffic can reach, and then what traffic we allow out of our district. That's only one part of the security. The next part of the security happens at the workstation level, and we have multiple applications that work inside of the local workstation, including the workstation firewall and software inside of the workstation, and those all combine to help us set an overall security posture for the district. And it is complicated when you have this many workstations, you have a network that's this large, and now you have devices that are moving off of our network. One of the reasons that we chose to move to the Intune management platform and the mobile device management system from Microsoft is that it provides another level of security for us, in that those workstations are not now joined to our domain, and they don't communicate to some of our domain servers, and to they can't communicate directly to our internal servers. So that way, if anything happens gets compromised on that local workstation, then they can't communicate directly on our network, and the attack vector there is much, much different than it used to be when workstations were what we call AD joined to our network. So there's a whole discussion we could have around security in and of itself, but we still have all of our filtering, our firewall policies in place. We continue to work on workstation policies to improve that. And another thing that we've done at the workstation level is that users don't have administrative privileges on workstations anymore. So that really helps prevent from, somebody clicking on something in email and software coming down and installing on the workstation and then getting administrative access and then being able to move through our network. So I'd be happy to talk more about it if you have specific questions, but there's two pieces, and we do work actively in both areas to make sure that students don't get access to content that they shouldn't have access to, and then also to address our security concerns.
Thank you. That was quite an answer. I appreciate it. My final question is probably best addressed by Superintendent Reynolds, if it's okay. And that is, right now we're getting, there is frustration. Anytime we work into a new system, we try new technologies, we move from red to yellow to hopefully soon green. There's a lot of frustration because things oftentimes don't work the first time you try them. The situation with dealing with children at home, dealing with childcare issues, dealing with the work and family situations, dealing with siblings, all those things. The teachers, frankly, a lot of the frustration that they're experiencing, a lot of the hours they're putting in. What are we doing as a district? I know that there's so many things that need to be done all the way through, but in addressing that frustration, I just wanted to give Superintendent Reynolds an opportunity to discuss that a little bit.
Chairman Kloppenstein, Trustee Smiley, thank you for that recognition for our teachers. We're receiving information from some teachers and staff members where they're just overly positive all the time, and they tend to handle change very, very well. But in a realistic viewpoint, we have many staff members, certificated and classified, And I know it's only day 2, but I want us to be really sensitive and proactive in meeting the needs of what we're hearing that's making life more miserable, more challenging for our staff. So this idea of feeling overwhelmed and all of the hours that our teachers spent over the summer taking classes and looking at different materials and learning those kinds of things. I think always the recognition for the additional time they're putting in, the frustration for parents and students, and again, going back to how everyone, especially our teachers, ended up also being field technicians and trying to help their kids connect. And so they were on the phone with parents and students, they were emailing back and forth, and so that just that overall level of feeling overwhelmed. One of the things that we've been trying to do is think about ways to make up the lost time for planning and for preparation at the elementary level in particular. So again, this is just the second day, so we're starting to better understand the exact nature of what we can do to assist. We know that there are some issues around safety and making sure that hand sanitizer and face masks and the plexiglass shields and all of those kinds of things are in place. So I know those kinds of issues have come up and we're addressing those as quickly as we can. So as we've all learned together how important communication is, one of the things that we would suggest is to always follow protocol and chain of command. So if there are concerns with the building, that the principal is the first and best person to communicate with. If it's a classroom issue, the teachers I know would much prefer that you reach out to them first, and that gives them a better way to directly communicate. So following protocol seems to be an issue. And I think the other part is trying to have a common expectation and description of what we mean, for example, by social distancing and or wearing face masks, if that has to be something that is that all day, every minute of the day, or what are the parameters of those kinds of things. So Mr. Smiley, I appreciate your question, and we had many meetings today where we talked about some of those issues that are on the hearts and minds of our staff, and we are brainstorming solutions for those.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You know, one thing, Mr. Chairman.
Please, Trustee Smiley.
Just a very brief closing remark. I know that, you know, when we have a big school district like West Ada, these transitions are not always smooth. I've been kind of joking. It's kind of like putting a battleship through a slalom course. You know, I do appreciate, and I know there's a lot of people listening. I appreciate the patience. I appreciate the support. We're all going to work through this. And you know what? In the future, education is going to have a different pace than what it has right now. And, you know, there's a silver lining to this cloud. And I think we're learning that, you know, in the future, education is going to be more blended, where we combine online resources with in-person resources. And, you know, this is I think there's a silver lining here. And I do appreciate the concerns that I've heard. I've heard from so many teachers, so many parents. I know that some are frustrated, some are working through it, and some have specific issues in specific buildings. And I just want to know, as far as I'm concerned, I appreciate hearing from those people, and I haven't been able to respond to everybody. I do understand that we're in this together, and we're going to come out better for it.
Thank you, Trustee Smiley. That then brings us then to the action portion of the agenda. And we have one item, revised reopening plan, that's on that. Is there a motion for this? We do have to attend to it, so is there a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, before we do a motion, I think I want to hear what administration's recommendation was. I believe I thought it was to just continue as we're that's planned, but I want to make sure from Superintendent Randall that's what her recommendation is.
Beg your pardon. Thank you very much, Trustee Smiley. Trustee Johnson, excuse me. Dr. Reynolds, would you like to answer that?
Yeah. This is the clerk. I believe you have to have a motion before you can discuss the item. Just a point of clarification.
Yeah, I beg your pardon. I think that Trustee Johnson was actually asking just to summarize. Is that correct, Trustee Johnson?
Yeah.
From the discussion portion.
Okay, I apologize.
Yeah, so I think we're okay.
So I'm so sorry. I couldn't hear, Chairman, I couldn't hear Trustee Johnson very well. What was the question?
Yeah, I can repeat it. Dr. Reynolds, can you hear me okay? Am I close enough to my phone, I guess? Let me make sure before I talk.
It's breaking up just a little bit, but please go ahead.
Okay, I'll see if this is better. I took it off speaker. I just wanted to know, before we go into action, if you had a recommendation. I thought I heard the recommendation was to continue as planned, but I wanted to make sure and hear that from you before we went into action.
Chairman Kloppenstein, trustees, we are continuing to create a plan that would bring back our students in 1st grade through 5th grade. And we're working on the details of that. We have some tentative dates that we'll be sharing out. We met with the COVID task force this morning. We met with elementary principals today and brainstorm problems and possible solutions. But the intent would be to, as early as September 28th, bring back grades 1 and 2. On October 5th, bring back 3rd grade. On October 12th, bring back 4th grade. And on October 19th, bring back 5th grade. So the last motion the board made, and your encouragement, was to give the superintendent the authority to begin transitioning the students back in grades 1 through 5 as conditions warranted. So based on all of our discussions today, that would be our tentative plan. We know that we still have many details to work out. Again, this is only the 2nd day of the alternate day schedule. We know that it will be important that our teachers and our parents and our students have at least 2 weeks to become familiar with that alternate day schedule in case something goes awry with the virus in the coming months. And that would give at least 2 weeks where we could be thinking about 1st grade and 2nd grade coming back. And it would also give us time to see how pre-K and K are doing. So at this point, trustees, that would be our tentative plan.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. So Dr. Reynolds, I appreciate all of that detail. Awesome. And so for today, just because I think it's continue as, I think what I heard is we don't need an action. We need to just continue as planned is what your recommendation is, as we've already made action on.
Yes, Trustee Johnson, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So that will bring us then into the action portion of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Smiley?
The only thing that I would suggest is that we would also expand that to include grades 6 through 12 as conditions included in conditions to expand that.
Is that your motion, Trustee Smiley?
If it pleases the rest of the board.
So could you recite your full motion language, please?
Okay, would be to use the existing language, which authorizes the superintendent to open up K through 5 to include 6 through 12 as well.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second,
Here.
I guess, for sake of discussion at least.
Trustee Newhoff with a second. Is there anyone with discussion?
This is Trustee Ozuna.
Trustee Ozuna?
I just want to say that I am very supportive of granting authority to the superintendent and the team to look at the rollout. But we had quite a bit of discussion about the K through 5, and I would appreciate that kind of discussion before we went into this, and today's meeting is, not the time for that, but I would imagine that administration would be bringing us some detail around that, and I guess I would lean toward waiting until they're ready to present that plan to us. Although I am in full support of giving them the authority to go that route when they're ready for the discussion.
Chairman Klopfenstein, this is Marianne. I appreciate that suggestion from Trustee Ozuna. I heard loud and clear the last couple of days and even last week. So the message has been very clear in terms of what's possible and how to do things thoroughly and correctly. So we're okay with that idea of looking at 6 through 12 and having that in the back of our minds, but all of our energies and all of our focus right now, all of that is on making sure we have everything in place for grades 1 through 5 so that our teachers just need some time to have some consistency in what we're doing, and we want to support that. So I'm very much okay and can support Trustee Smiley's motion to have us begin thinking about what it would take to have grades 6 through 12 come back all day, every day. But if with the board's blessing, I would really like to spend our time and energy on grades 1 through 5.
Thank you, Dr. Reynolds. Does anyone else have any comments? Trustee Johnson?
I have a question for Dr. Reynolds, because I'm in alignment with Trustee Ozuna. The way that 6 through 12 work is different than K through 5, and the safety protocols are harder when it comes to social distancing. So I guess my question, Dr. Reynolds, is there, I know we want to focus on K through 5, and I totally support it and understand it, and think it also give us some good information and data. Is there a kind of timing that you think it would be possible to come back with a plan if K through 5 rolls out the way we expect, which we don't know if it will, but if it does, is there a timing that you expect to maybe be able to come back with a plan?
Thank you, Trustee Johnson. No, I really don't know. I would need some time to meet with our secondary principals and begin to explore the possibilities of what that might look like and what kinds of adjustments we would need to make in our buildings. So I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for you.
Okay. So,
Mr. Chairman.
that's okay. Can I need to finish, if you don't mind, if I can now.
Go ahead.
say-
Please, Trustee Johnson, go ahead and finish.
Thank you. So if the motion maker would accept kind of maybe a friendly amendment around that we support that and ask that administration, when timing is appropriate, come forward with a proposal for the board for information.
The only thing that this trustee, Chairman Kloppenstein, this is Meridian.
Dr. Rouse, please.
So one of the things that I think the board might want to think about is the motion Trustee Smiley made contingent upon language from a previous motion the board made, which was that, so I'm just trying to make sure I understand the friendly amendment. So is the friendly amendment just adding to the motion while the superintendent would still have the authority to bring students back? There would be an expectation of the board approving that plan, or I guess I'm just a little confused.
You know, if I may, if I can jump into the process just a little bit, I'm just a little concerned. We've had this issue in the past where we're basically creating, really the goal of today's agenda was really just to get an update on connectivity, and if something was needed, to be able to provide support. I mean, that's what we've been trying to do, is provide support. And I don't remember in my notes, at least, that the request was for 6 through 12. And if this is the intent of the board, I would frankly appreciate being able to pause this motion, if it's okay, think through the ramifications, make sure that we get an understanding from the district, and then go forward if that's the pleasure of the board. I just think that it might be, time is on our side. We don't have, we have support for going through K through 5. The district is going forward with that. Would it make sense to maybe pause this effort and think through and get clear direction from the district about what the ramifications might be first?
Mr. Chairman, this is
Mr.
Trustee
Chairman.
Johnson. I don't know if I can, because I was going to answer Marianne's question, but I don't need to. I guess I'll say it. I would like to see what it looks like to explore it, but I also understand the reasons for wanting to get some data and planning in front of us. So I guess I won't make a separate motion, but maybe there's an opportunity to just put a discussion item on our agenda for next Tuesday. And I will leave that to your decision.
Excellent. Thank you. Trustee Smiley, please.
Mr. Chairman, I am very much open to the will of the board. The intent of my motion was permissive. In other words, enabling the superintendent to begin to explore this, because that's all of our goals. We want to get our kids back learning, and you know that we have to be concerned about doing it safely. I totally get that, but that is the intent of my motion, is to give the flexibility there to make those plans, and that we can all move forward with the entire district. I realize the focus right now is with our younger children. I get that.
Thank you, Trustee Smiley. I just want to make sure our process for patrons is very clear, and that we're as transparent as possible, and that the district, if needed, is able to provide feedback. So it would be up to you how you want to move with your motion. Then you have a second to move forward.
Mr. Chairman, I guess my colleagues can vote my motion up or down.
That's very true. Is there any other discussion? Trustee Johnson?
Just a point of
You did bring up
Can we get the motion on the screen? Because I need to be able to see it. I'm not sure exactly what I'm voting on now. So would there be an opportunity for Mr. Smiley to put the motion in writing and put it up on the screen?
I can't because I'm on a telephone connection.
Would you be able to write it down and recite it so that, I'm assuming, Troy, do you have access to the screen?
Yes, sir, I do. I just need to know exactly what the words are, and I'll be happy to write those down.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
My motion was just simply to add grades 6 through 12 to the motion, authorizing the superintendent to move forward.
Could you repeat the end part of that? It got a little broken up.
Okay. Once again, my motion was to, in addition to grades K through 5, to include grades 6 through 12, authorizing the superintendent to move forward. That's all I'm doing to the original motion that we passed before. And here again, I'm open to the will of the board.
Please let me know what I need to change for that.
Trustee Smiley, is this correct and accurate?
I cannot see the screen. I cannot see the screen.
So what it says is, in addition to grades K through 5, the motion is to add grades 6 through 12 to authorize, in addition to grades K through 5. I'm sorry, we got two lines here. So in addition to grades K through 5, to include grades 6 through 12, to give authorization to the superintendent to move forward. Is that your complete motion?
Yes.
It was seconded, so.
And here again, if any of my fellow trustees, I'm a little bit handicapped here because I'm on a phone connection and I can't see the Teams connection. So I'm a little bit of a disadvantage here. I apologize. If my colleagues wish to vote that down, that's fine. But that was my idea, and it was a permissive motion, not a directive motion.
Mr. Chairman, this is Trustee Ozuna.
Trustee Ozuna, please.
Thank you, Trustee Smiley. I completely support what you're trying to accomplish. I'm going to lean the other way on this one, just to give our teachers the support that they're looking for in continuity with the plan that we have in place, and then recognize that when Dr. Reynolds is ready to bring this to us to look at, that I'll be ready to take action at that time.
Okay. Mr. Chairman and Trustee Ozuna, I wanted to get something out there for the sake of our discussion.
Thank you, Trustee Smiley, and thank you, Trustee Ozuna. Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Newhoff, please.
Thank you. I just want to kind of echo Trustee Ozuna's. I appreciate Trustee Smart motion. Why I seconded it. I would have the opportunity to discuss it. And I think the administration is going to have the ability to assess what the situation is in schools in terms of their safety preparedness, and educational preparedness to do it and so forth. And I look forward to the time when they could consider bringing that to us, but I'll probably, you know, vote no, because this isn't emanating from administration, and I do think we need to have a little bit of consistency here for a while, especially since this didn't arise from administration. That's all I have.
Thank you, Trustee Newhoff. So I guess I'll chime in one last thing before the vote. I would agree with Trustee Ozuna and Trustee Newhoff. I just feel like there is a concern that we have an issue of consistency, and that teachers just need time to take the changes they've already made, the planning they've already created, and to be able to leverage that over the next few weeks or however. We need a plan that stays as a single plan. But anyway, I agree. And if the administration deems necessary to move forward with higher levels of grades, then I would agree as well.
Mr. Chairman.
That brings, Trustee Smiley.
Mr. Chairman. Yes, with the permission of my seconder, I can sense that the board's not ready for this yet. So I think we did have a good, healthy discussion here, and with the permission of my seconder, I will withdraw the motion, because I don't want to have a divided vote here. I want us to work together.
Thank you. Trustee Newhoff, would you agree?
My permission. Yep.
I said, thank you very much. So the motion is denied, dropped, withdrawn. Thank you.
So,
thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I wanted to, Mr. Chairman, I want to make it clear that's the direction I want to move in.
I understand. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And Trustee Smiley, since you're a parliamentarian, we still do need a motion on this item. Is that correct?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion.
Please, Trustee Newhoff.
Yeah, I move that we postpone the action item is listed on the agenda indefinitely.
Thank you very much for that motion. Is there a second?
This is Trustee Ozuna with a second.
Trustee Ozuna, thank you very much. Is there any discussion? Then all those in favor, please say aye.
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 And Chairman is aye as well, so it's unanimous. Thank you very much. That brings us to our.
Mr. Chairman.
I beg your pardon.
Mr. Chairman.
Trustee Smith.
I'm going to vote no on that. I'm sorry.
I beg your pardon. I'm sorry. I thought I heard you say yes, but it'll be 4-1 with Trustee Smiley voting no. Thank you very much. Appreciate calling that out. That brings us into item number 3, which is the adjournment. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Johnson with the motion, and Trustee Newhoff with the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
And Chairman is aye as well, so it's unanimous. Thank you very much, everyone. Truly appreciate your time this afternoon, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.